Oh shit. Okay. Yeah, go. And hello, everyone. Welcome to the Custom Track Cup Season 1 Division 1 semifinals. I'm Scoped, and today I'm joined by a nobody, unfortunately. Contrary to the first Division 1 semifinals, I am alone in casting this tonight with this match between Za and Sixth Sense. Seeing as our players are really quickly gathering into the room, we're going to go through this rather quickly for this lineup review, starting with our second seed, Za. Zoff more has been a team that has gone by many different names, with a core of Sparkster, Striker, Helia, those players that may have garnered a bit of a mixed reputation throughout the past few years, but they have the skills to make it to the top of D1, as we have seen. Second seed going into the semifinals, with the lineup today being Trevor, Mike, Chris, Kali, and Striker bagging. Chris will get replaced by Sparkster during the second match, according to Za. We'll have to see how that changes the momentum of the match. But Sparkster has been one of the main point scorers for this team throughout this season, ending up with a 33-point average. Obviously, Cali being the main frontrunner with 35.8. But yeah, Sparkster being a player that has been improving quite a lot over the past few seasons. It's been really nice to see a rather young player just mature both as a player and just in general, in terms of attitude, etc. It's been really nice to see. But they have quite the tall task ahead of them, obviously, because they're facing up against 6C tonight. Sixth Sense obviously don't need to be presented anymore. The one team that has been dominating CTs for the past, I want to say, 2 years or so, pretty much, with the main duo of Zilla and Brody. 40 points average, 36.8. Just these numbers alone in Division 1 should be more than enough to tell you that these guys have been at the top of the CT game for quite a while now. Charlie and Stubbs as the rest of the lineup, with Johnny bagging. Pretty typical lineup for 6C. Really, they haven't needed to change lineups at all throughout the past 2 years. Obviously, there have been some bumps here and there with the loss against Jay-Z, for example, and the previous seasons in the previous season in which they haven't played together. But obviously, really scary opponent to go up against when you're Za. Granted, they are considered the highest seeding, but it is under somewhat dubious circumstances, as Sixth Sense hasn't played that many matches. They've only played 7 matches this season compared to Za's 8, so they have a little bit of an advantage in terms of raw seedings. Let's quickly check into the room to check if the room hasn't started yet. Oh, we're still up to 7. Okay, so we have the time to talk about this a little bit more. Sixth Sense reforming this season after a season break due to uh, circumstances that I'm not going to elaborate on tonight. But yeah, forming back, and Zilla immediately scoring 40 in Division 1, getting a nice little MVP banner already, with Brody second in Div with 36.8. It's kind of crazy that two members on the same team are the top two in divs of a single season, but these two have pretty much been doing this for quite a while now, so it's not that surprising to see. On Za's roster, we do have, for example, Mike, who has a lot of RT experience, who can bring a lot of just overall game sense to this more so fledgling lineup. Although obviously, people like Callie have also been playing for quite a while, but Mike is definitely one of the players that I'm going to watch most of all this match, alongside obviously Zilla, Brody, the classic duo, the power couple, however you want to call them. Either way, we do have 3 runner POVs this match. We have Zilla, we have Stubbs, and we have Trevor going into this match with Striker as the bagger, POV for now. So we have quite a big variety of points of views to be looking through this match today. So going to be quite an interesting match to follow. Uh, I don't believe we have time to look at the track list really quickly, but Za definitely have a rather eccentric lineup of tracks, with tracks, for example, like Kinoko Cave, like uh, Darkness Temple, GCN Mushroom City. Darkness Temple maybe a bit less so, but they definitely have some rather more obscure track picks, whereas 6C have the classics that they picked for seasons at this point. Obviously, Color Wonderland with Brody and Zilla being top two in the world on this track specifically. BC4, Riverside Park, Flying Kingdom, Rabbit Hole, all of these tracks that they've picked for many seasons at this point and that have not stayed out of their track pool for the time being. Obviously, they can steal some tracks such as Banished Keep, for example, that we know Zilla and Brody are also really proficient on. But yeah, the track picks for Za might matter a lot more, seeing as Sixth Sense on their specific tracks are really proficient and they have a lot of experience on them. Let's rush quickly back into the room to make sure that we're not missing the starts, but it seems to be fine. We're still up to 9. Regardless of the seedings, I do believe no Flame to Za or anything, but I do expect a 2-0 out of Sixth Sense. They've simply been so dominant over the past few seasons that it's pretty much expected. It's an expected result to see them in finals in a rather dominant fashion, but I would be really appreciative if Za they could definitely at the very least take a match. If they can go the distance into finals, that would be quite the upset, and I'd be very impressed to see them go the distance. They definitely a pretty big dark horse during this season, and to finish against MI would definitely be quite the interesting finals for this particular CTC season, first CTC season, new era of two new teams getting, new teams for D1 finals, making it all the way there would definitely be quite the story to tell. Regardless, though, I am expecting quite the nice level of play from either of those teams. They've been performing quite well over the course of the season. Zal losing only 2 matches, 6E only losing 1. But fun fact, neither of these teams have actually played against each other throughout the season, choosing to get a mutual tie done before the end. So this will be the first official match between both of these teams. So it'll be very interesting to see what this first encounter has in store for us. Obviously, I don't doubt that these two could have possibly scrimmed against each other, but it will be their first encounter in an official match. So really quickly, I am informed by my stream host that Stubbs isn't live, so we might be stuck with only 3 POVs with Zilla, Trevor, and Striker, but it should be more than enough. One per team is usually the norm either way. Should be more than fine regardless with Striker as our bagger POV, and Johnny, 6C's bagger, finally joining the room, so we should be on our way rather shortly. But regardless, I am looking forward to this match, absolutely, seeing that I've also casted the other D1 finals between MI and Omega, and this one stayed close pretty much the entire way through. For those that haven't watched it, I do recommend giving it a quick look. But MI stayed in control the entire way through, but Omega definitely didn't make it easy for them, only making them win by small increments the entire way through. It was definitely close race, the close races all throughout. But yeah, I'm really excited to see if this match can also be similarly close. What I'm expecting it to be close is possibly the bagging battle. Johnny has been one of the most proficient CT baggers in recent memory, alongside Nathan, who's obviously retired at this point for Mario Kart World. But Johnny is definitely amongst the elite of CT baggers here, and Striker has the experience throughout many,
Wait,
many
is Johnny
seasons of
here?
CT bagging to
Yeah.
possibly
Oh, he
make it somewhat close. Obviously, Johnny is favored in this matchup. I do believe by most and by most casters would agree with me on this one. But I do expect the shock battles to be close. I do expect while I did say 6C, I do expect them to make quite the dominant showing here. I would be very excited to see Za prove me wrong in that regard and possibly make this a lot closer of a match. Obstagoon's Palace, The Rabbit Hole are two first tracks going into this. Obstagoon's Palace, the first track actually on Za's track list, the one that they prioritized most, and immediately going to pick it in those odds spots with the Rogue Airship Fortress on the side of Johnny here. Pretty expected track picks from both of these teams, and to kick us off, we will go on the rabbit hole immediately. Get your jokes out in the chat. You might as well go ahead right on the first map. Either way, we will get started on this semifinals extremely soon. 60 getting the first pick, definitely to their advantage. We know how strong they are on this track, rather old track pick that favoritize their more technical and older players. We do expect to see Zilla stay in the front quite a bit here, getting into those first boxes. The first tree cut, obviously, being the most important. Will anyone fail it in the top spot? Doesn't look like it. Zilla getting bumped a little bit with, I do believe that this is Trevor in front of him really quickly. And actually getting nabbed immediately as top two from Za get into the front. Brody in fourth. 3-4-5 for 6C, but that is triple shrooms for Zilla. If there are no shrooms in the top spots for Za, that could be quite the undertaking. And it doesn't seem like it's Stubbs and Zilla immediately taking the cut. But oh no, a bit of unfortunate, maybe some rust, maybe some time to warm up for our MVP here as Zilla fails the first shroom cut and is forced in the back. Let's switch POVs really quickly towards Trevor, immediately reading out one of his teammates to try and red out Charlie. Unfortunately, Stubbs still in first for the time being. Ooh, a little bit of mushroom madness going on as Brody passes him, but Charlie is redded out. We do see Johnny early on in that first box here, sitting at the set for now. 6C in 1-3 with Trevor in fourth, fifth. It seems as someone is shrooming tight, and it is Zilla 1-4-5, 1-3-4, sorry, for 6C for the time being. Trevor does have a pretty good item going into this. We'll have to see if he can keep that going for at least a little while. Should hold on to those triple shrooms for the time being. Let's switch over to Zilla in the mid pack. Wonder what he's holding up there. And it doesn't seem to be anything, actually. Not holding any items for the time being. Maybe either used it as protection or simply missed a box. Either way, triple reds almost immediately. But Brody not getting hit out, actually. Unfortunately for Zilla here, as he reds out 3 members of Za before the table. That is an absolutely massive time loss for those Za members, as Stubbs is still ahead, I believe, with one last shroom that he could use for the cut, and that is exactly what he is going to do. Stubbs gone in first at this point. Will anyone take the cut into top spot? Doesn't look like it's. 6C still in top 2. Let's switch over POVs really quickly back to Trevor to see where he ended up with those triple shrooms, and that is 3-4 for Za as we go up to the Vine here. Not exactly sure who is in the back here. Oh, Kali with the TC in 5th. They're going to have to slow down, try and hit possibly a member of 6C if there is anyone next to it. Still top 2 for 6C so far, with one of the baggers actually, both baggers going forward. Shock is in play, not exactly sure who has it just yet. We're going to have to see. Pow in the maze could be pretty good. Striker doesn't have Shock in 10. Thank you, Masako. Forgot we had bagger POV for a second. That is 6C holding onto Shock for the time being, and we know they are in the back. They could possibly be holding some dodges there after Za goes through the item set. Red being thrown back, not going to connect in any way. Cards not blocking, and that is a TC for Trevor. Unfortunately, not the item that you want. But with the shot being in play, maybe he can ridge Zilla in time, but that doesn't seem likely. That is going to be top 3 at the very least for 6C, with, I do believe I do see Charlie coming up at the end there. Last member of ZA being able to make it through. That is top 3 for 6C immediately, with Brody dodging in a star at the last second. Massive start for 6C on one of their classic, iconic track picks. That is definitely the way that I expected this to start for a team as dominant as 6C. Regardless, ZA, unfortunately, could not manage to break into the front. Stubbs stayed in first the entire way through. Zilla managed to follow, but that triple red being used on the start of lap 2 after the tree cut, preventing everyone from making it onto the table and just losing them a lot of time in general. That was an absolutely massive pull for Zilla there, and just lost them so much time, guaranteeing top 2 right then and there. The POW not making a difference. TC, I'm pretty sure even with any item other than a Mega, it would have still resulted in around the same results. Top 3 8 for 6C as we go into race 2. And that is, I believe, a plus 19 immediately for these players. Yeah, quite the strong start. Oh, Brody actually dodged into first. Never mind. Brody dodging into first there with that star chain into Shrooms, most likely. A Color Wonderland immediately being used up on 60 side. If you've seen a 60 match, you know how strong they are on Color Wonderland. Cheap Cheap Island definitely would be a saving grace for Za there as we go into race 2. And thankfully for them, it is going to be picked. Quite the strong bagging track, should be able to catch back up with some Shrooms. But regardless, definitely a little bit of a breather there. Funny that saying that on the second track is kind of crazy to think about, but it is a little bit of a breather for them as we go across the first set. Mike and Trevor in 3-4. Their bomb could immediately be thrown at Brody, and it will connect. Stubbs dodging it barely as Za gets their way into 2-3-4. No Shrooms for the time being. Second bomb for Trevor. Will it connect onto Stubbs? Great back flip. Sorry, being thrown out by Stubbs, getting one member of ZA out. A Shroom for Trevor should allow him to get into the top spot, unless Charlie has a Shroom as well. But it seems like every member of the top 4, aside from Stubbs, there had the Shrooms available. Charlie now alone in the top 3, but it seems like we had a little bit of a fail there. Charlie gets into first. A little bit of a driving mistake there on the side of Mike. Charlie dodging that green. Sorry, gonna be able to stay in the first position, but on Cheap Cheap Island, being in first could be quite scary there. If second pulls a Shroom, going to be able to easily get back into the front there, but it doesn't seem like it on the side of Trevor. Maybe gonna trail that green, gonna try and hit him out. Doesn't seem likely for the time being. Green being thrown, not connecting. We still don't know what Charlie has. It could be more Shrooms. Charlie could be holding on to triple Shrooms for the time being. We did see him Shroom up at the start. We're going to have to see. And it is a Shroom. Charlie is going to be gone in first. Let's quickly switch POVs really quickly as Brody also makes his way into the top 2. Unfortunate timing on that switch. Zilla failing the cut and is going to be stuck in the back alongside Stubbs. Let's quickly switch back to our member in top 3 here. Trevor powing the last Shroom out of Brody, and actually Brody getting hit off, I believe, or at the very least getting hit and slowed quite a bit. Charlie still gone in first. I do not know if he has a Shroom still. Do believe he Shroomed up at the start, so it is unlikely. Regardless, should be staying in first the entire way through, regardless, as Trevor stays in second here. We do see Striker shrooming through the dirt, so it does seem likely that 60 have the shock. Exactly, Johnny making Zilla dodge in a star, and I do believe Stubbs dodge in a mega as well, shrooming up. Brody bumping his teammate, unfortunately, meaning that Zilla loses some time, but it should get him all the way up into maybe fourth regardless. No items though. That's going to be quite the tough mid pack to go through. Stubbs in for with Charlie still gone into first. Maybe some drafts. Maybe Stubbs has a way to head out. Kali there being thrown up. It doesn't connect. It is going to be 1-4-5-6 on the side of 60 after that shock. Za managing to keep 2-3 even after the shock. Great play up by them. Overall, shock extremely strong on a map such as Cheap Cheap Island. And it does mean that 60 will get a small winning race, but it could have been a lot worse with a shock on Cheap Cheap Island, only dodging Stubbs and Zilla into the mid spots, with Charlie just getting into first immediately. Once again, same story as Stubbs last race, getting into first and just staying first the entire way through with triple Shrooms. That is 1-4-5-7 for 60, sorry, not 1-4-5-6. Small winning race by 5 as we go into race 3. Unfortunately, Za just haven't managed to head out first in either of those races. Both of those races, Charlie and Stubbs just got into the front early, and in either case, they just haven't managed to head out that 60 member out of first, and they simply stayed in the back. Brody getting into second at the start of at the end of lap 2, but the POW into hit there, unfortunately, meaning that he'd stay in the back for the rest of the race. But aside from that, Charlie just got to run scot-free. No blue, no shock to really lose him so far. And Johnny has been really dominant in the shock battle so far. We're going to have to see if it's maybe some simply D1 semis jitters for Striker, who has never been in this high of a division. before, to my knowledge, at the very least. If I'm wrong, do flame me in chat for it. That is absolutely fine. Lost Ruins, Lost Fortress, and the Grand Archives. I do believe that is simply a rogue
Off-list
mispick.
pick.
It is off-list pick, unfortunately, Lost Ruins, and that is an immediate pen on the side of 6C off of a misclick from Johnny. Uh, I it is an off-list pick, so it should be a reset and a minus 20, cutting down the lead to 4 after 2 races. Unfortunately for 6C means that this little oopsie cost them a reset and cost them 20 points. They're still in the lead after 2 races, but definitely not the kind of pick you want to see when you have the momentum on your side. We are going to use this opportunity, actually, seeing as I'm alone on the cast, I will call Masako to the caster booth really quickly, as a way to simply make this little DC a little bit better. But yeah, I don't know if you are completely in agreement with me here, Masako, but it definitely seems to be 6C being in control a lot so far during this match. Even if it's just 2 races, I think rather it's been rather prominent for this, even for 2 races.
I mean, on Rabbit Hole, definitely, you just had 60 in top spots permanently, pretty much. And obviously, Johnny having 2 shocks definitely helped as well. It elevated that top 2 on Rabbit Hole into a top 3, which made the race just even better than it already was. And then on Cheap Cheap Island, I feel like if Striker could have pulled Shock there, which I feel like he could have been able to. I wasn't paying that much attention to the banging battle, I will be honest. But I feel like if Striker was just able to pull Shock there instead of Johnny, it could have definitely gone the other way.
Yeah, Cheap Cheap Island is just one of those tracks where Shaw can absolutely turn the race around, but Charlie was still pretty much gone in first. I do believe Charlie could have maybe stayed in first, even with Shock on the side of Za, though that absolutely could be debated on. Um, yeah, 6E choosing to claim the spots, obviously keeping 1457. But yeah, so far Johnny has been really dominant, pulling both of those shocks in 10 to my knowledge. Um, as expected, really, Johnny has been in the elite tier of baggers for quite a while now, joining 6C, I believe 3 or 2 seasons ago, and being quite the strong piece for them, and really showing up so far. We're gonna have to see if this lasts. Obviously, you can never be too sure in a bagging battle. Shocks in 9 happen, bills in 10 happen. You can never be too sure. So we're gonna have to see if Striker can maybe turn his luck around for the next 10 races. Obviously, cutting down the lead from 24 to 4, definitely not something that you want so early on in a match of this caliber. But Za definitely can breathe in a little bit of a sigh of relief. And hopefully Johnny can get his act together, because I believe that is 2 mispicks in 2 races, if I'm not mistaken, on Johnny's side.
Well, in his defense, it'll at the very least, DS Airship Fortress was on the list.
Yeah, I suppose you can argue with that. I suppose I can't argue with that. But yeah, Lost Ruins, Lost Fortress, Alpine Peak, Alpine Skyway. Not the first, not the last of these little mishaps in regards to track names that we've seen and that we're gonna keep seeing, I assume. But in D1 semis, you might as well lock in a little bit in that regard. In all seriousness, though, so far, Za have definitely, especially on JP Island, they've managed to still have quite the say in the track so far. One member in the top 3 or even top 2 for most of the pack. Trevor managing to get Brody out of second at the start of lap 3. But so far, no members of ZA or ZA. I still don't know how to pronounce that. I'm gonna keep saying ZA. No member of ZA managing to really take that top spot. Do you think it's simply a matter of 6C just playing their items better? Do you think it's a matter of just experience? Maybe ZA haven't just gotten the opportunities to do so just yet?
I think it's kind of a mix of everything. It's you obviously have on 6C side a lot of very experienced time trailers from my knowledge, which definitely means their lines are just gonna be better. and then you obviously have factors such as item play experience, chemistry as well. 6E has played with a team like this since I believe season 7 of CTL.
Definitely close to that. Those four runners have been playing together for a while, and you're absolutely correct when it comes to raw time trialing, experience and prowess. Zilla, Brody, and Charlie, both, all of them, they have multiple top tens, and Stubbs is definitely no slouch either, having plenty of RT experience as well. All of these players are really fast, and Za's gonna need to step it up a little bit to really get into that first place. Thankfully, it doesn't seem like we're going to be taking too long to get back into said races. We are 8 in the room. We'll use this opportunity to take a quick look um, about which players are which me's, because unfortunately these names are not making it any easier on the casting side. But that is besides the point. It should be, unfortunately, only a couple of races of adaptation on my end, hopefully. Um, Regardless, though, obviously Lost Ruins going to and Lost Ruins out of the way. Lost Fortress should be the pick once again for 6C. I do wonder, how important do you think, really quickly before we get back into it, how important do you think track picks are in regards to this specific match? Because depending on the matchups between certain teams, track picks can matter a lot more or a lot less.
I generally feel like that on 90% of tracks, 6E is just going to have the advantage. So for the most part, it's going to be that as the default. And when Zar gets a track pick, I feel like it's more so going to be even. Like Cheap Cheap Island showed that. It was definitely more of an even race than Rabbit Hole. But when 6C get a track pick, it can be absolutely devastating for Zar.
Yeah, so it matters a lot more for Za than for 6C is what we're agreeing on, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that pretty
Yeah.
much.
All right, well, you are back to you're back to the host chambers for the time being, the stream host prison. Either way, we are back into race 3 between Grand Archives Lost Fortress. This time, no rogue picks to get us out of um, was to simply distract us for the time being, and it is going to be Grand Archives. Za chaining track picks into a rather, I want to say newer track pick, but it's been a few years by now. Grand Archives, pretty common Shroomer alongside a lot of these teams. It's been picked in every division to my knowledge. Grand Archives, pretty common track pick. Any triple Shroom pull is absolutely massive, as we all know. The cuts, the gap jump is extremely important, and Trevor immediately pulling a Shroom in second, going to be setting himself up in a great spot. We do see another ZA member getting into first place, with I do believe 2 more Shrooms, and Zilla, great snipe on his end, going to be able to get into first for the time being, and actually got a Shroom in second as well. Trevor failing to cut a little bit, meaning that he's going to stay behind Zilla for now as we go into the second half of lap 1. Trevor got lucky with a single Shroom, and he does get it again, actually. Charlie, unfortunately, the little bit of a wall bump means that Charlie gets into second for the time being. Not exactly sure what he has, but Zilla also failing a little bit, going to try and put a net aside and actually managing to hit Callie with it as he bumps into the wall. Charlie going to get redded out, most likely holding some Shrooms. TC on the side of, sorry. TC on the side of Chris there, but not going to be able to pass it as Zilla stays into first. Another Shroom for Trevor. My goodness, check this man's Wii as we go into the cut section. Callie managing to get back up to speed here. Zilla still managing to keep first place, but not having any more Shrooms. I do believe both Callie and Trevor have Shrooms to take the cut for now. Oh no, Callie doesn't have it. Simply had a single Shroom to try and catch up. Trevor getting into first place here. Let's switch over POV to Zilla, who's right behind him. Well, right as we switched back green into blue, let's switch POVs back as Zilla should stay in first for now. Trevor, an immediate blue, most likely a 6C member holding a blue shell. Maybe Brody, seeing as we have Brody or Stubbs, as we haven't seen them in the front for now. Trevor continuing with his Shroom luck, this time pulling a Mega, as we do see both of the baggers still going backwards. No one should have shock just yet. None of them respawning for now. We're gonna have to see who is in front. But Trevor gonna decide to hold on to his Mega for now. You have to remember the cut is not possible in Mega, making this quite the risky hold for now. Unfortunately, Mike does pull a TC, meaning that 6C are now up into top 2-4, with Chris actually making his way up into 3-4. And there's the shock. Either Brody predicting it or Trevor predicting it, and Brody actually manages to star him out. Stubbs dodging as well, so I have to assume it is a 6C shock that Trevor simply managed to predict, as Stubbs and Brody both dodging. And with that Schlag, 60 are in an amazing spot here. Mike does manage to shroom back up. Charlie actually gets into the door there to try and pass off the TC. Not exactly sure if he managed to do so, but I do believe that it's top 3 for 6C so far. Indeed, Stubbs, Zilla, and Brody in that top 3. Green being thrown, Stubbs not connecting, and Trevor is simply going to be stuck with those triple greens. I'm not exactly sure if he can even do anything about it. Stubbs just changed another star, but even with the Mega Pull, Trevor can't really do anything about it, and it is going to be another top 3 on the side of 6C, with Charlie being the sacrificial lamb with that TC, going to stay in 8th, but it is still a massive race for 6C, and another shock being pulled by Johnny. That's 3 in 3 races, definitely showing why he's considered one of the best baggers in the game at the moment. But once again, the same, literally the same exact scenario. Zilla just stayed in first pretty much the entire way through, only getting past at 2 moments to get 1 immediately sniped out, 2 immediately blued, and otherwise simply stayed in first the entire way through until he got passed by Brody, who dodged up at the end. Speaking of which, great play by Brody to Schlag Trevor, who just dodged in a Mega, getting the only dodger from Za out of the way early so they could keep that top 3 uncontested. Great play by Brody. And that is going to be another big race that should be around a plus 21. We do need to reset the bot really quickly, as there has been a room reset, but that should be up 21 as we go into race 3. Regardless, Color Wonderland, Lost Fortress, Twin Peaks, pretty expected track picks once again on both sides. Twin Peaks maybe a little bit of a surprising pick on the side of Za, but still going to be another pick for Za that is going to be chained. I am informed by my stream host that Striker hasn't had the best luck in the bagging department, having pulled to their knowledge 6 bills in 3 races. So uh, hopefully that is going to be turning around at some point. Zilla immediately pulling a shroom in second. Unfortunately, you would need to get across the big cut that makes this track so bagging heavy. And an immediate snipe by Chris, fib snipe onto Zilla there. And Stubbs unfortunately hitting the fib from his teammates, but there's still 134 on the side of 6C there as we go into the stream section. Red on the side of Zilla going to be immediately thrown out at Mike. We're going to have to see if it connects or not. In this section, it can be pretty tricky to avoid, and it is going to connect. Top 2. Let's switch over POVs to Trevor really quickly, as Zilla should stay pretty chill up there, but it seems like he is going to slow down to try and get some shrooms here, just letting Stubbs potentially run with triple shrooms, and Brody having quite a bit of a break already. If Stubbs does have triple shrooms, there's going to be a little bit of a battle between him and Trevor, and that is going to be the case. Stubbs going into the cut with Trevor right behind him. Trevor with the golden going to be able to get into first with Brody and Stubbs hot on his trail. Zilla holding the blue. Thank you for the POV switch, Masako. And Trevor actually immediately hits the train, the blue not being thrown immediately, and it pays dividends as Trevor, under the pressure, simply hits the train and is forced behind Brody and Stubbs with no triple shrooms or golden to get back up. Good avoidance by Trevor on that back green, but he's unfortunately squished again, and the top 2 from 60 just have an amazing break at this point. Even with this track being as bagging heavy as it is, you would need triple shrooms into blue or something along those lines to get back up to Brody and Stubbs in that top 2, but we know that Zilla is still holding this blue, so really at this point Shock is going to be the one saving grace, and we do see one of the baggers actually staying in front of the line. with the other respawning, so one of the baggers should have shock already. Not exactly sure who it could be. Can we switch over to Striker's POV really quickly to possibly see who has shock? And it is actually Johnny having the shock again, meaning that 60 is once again in control of this entire race, should allow uh, possibly Charlie getting back up into third actually with a golden, I would have to assume. So that is top 3 once again for 60 with Zilla holding the blue in the back, and we quickly get a switch to confirm to the public that he is still holding that blue. No, actually, seems that it was lost due to a train or possibly anything along those lines. But that is probably better for 60 at this point, as you want your your last spot to dodge, and with 60 being so far ahead, actually Trevor actually passing that TC to Brody, and it doesn't seem like he's willing to get passed back. Bomb going to connect on 2 members, one from either team, and Trevor getting a star from Striker there. Good star drop on his end, going to delay that shock from 6C for quite a bit, but 6C are still going to be pretty favored here. Mike in third, but we do see someone dodging up, and it's going to be Brody in the Mega with Zilla in a star. That could be, once again, another top 3 for 6C. Blooper being lost by Brody, with Zilla making his way up into 4th place. Will we see him pass at the end? But ooh, it's got maybe a little bit of lag there. We're gonna have to see on the result screen if 60 have yet another top 3, or if it is top 2 for another shock by Johnny, 4 in 4 races, and Za on their track pick, not being able to hold up to the front. Trevor immediately getting squished twice in a single straight line by the trains, just losing a lot of time there, and meaning that Brody and Stubbs were just able to stay in the front for so long, and Zilla does end up passing Trevor, so that is another top 3 on the side of 6C as we pass the first GP with a -20 penalty. Absolutely massive GP on the side of 6C. The dominance that I was talking about earlier in the pre-match on display right there. Definitely the definitely the quite the mountain to climb on the side of Za. Definitely still doable, but quite the mountain to climb regardless. And Masako informing me that Striker pulled another 3 to 4 bills this race. My goodness, that would explain Johnny being able to get so many shocks. But hopefully that luck is going to turn around on the side of Striker as we go into the next track. Riverside Park actually sniping their opponent's typical bagging track with Color Wonderland being a pretty obvious pick for 6C in top 3. Will we see another ZA track pick chain? We will. What they lack in shocks, they make up for in track picks, though that hasn't shown on the scoreboard just yet. Riverside Park being picked, stealing it away from 6C's track list. Regardless, still an extremely strong bagging track. I'm expecting only around 2 to 3 people to go past that first set. Guns blazing. We're gonna have to see Trevor most likely being one of them. Yeah, pretty much expected, as we see Zilla immediately pull out a star. Maybe a bomb being thrown onto 2 of those members in the straight line. Zilla going to choose to hold that star for the time being, possibly chaining it here into the cut. Indeed, going to get a 7th place item while still taking half of the cut. Going to be able to get himself into a pretty good spot. Let's switch over to Trevor. Not exactly sure where he is. Oh, he is in 8th. Never mind. Let's switch back over to Zilla. Going to be stuck in the back for quite a while here. Wonder who we see in the front. We see Charlie with a TC. Unfortunately, not going to be able to pass it to Mike. Most likely going to have to sit by that set for now, as we do see Brody and Zilla and Stubbs in that top 4, where Zilla going to be able to take that double shroom cut fairly easily, with Stubbs hot on his trail. That is top 3 for 6C, I do believe. That is top 3 for 6C. Let's switch over to Trevor, who made it with was last 2 shrooms, going to be able to get into that top 4. But a TC, another one for Za, as Brody does manage to snipe him out, slagging out a little bit with those triple greens and hitting him twice before the TC, going to be throwing him back into 8th place unceremoniously. but Za pulling Bill. We do know the baggers are going forward though. So let's switch over to Striker's POV. And Striker does have the shock. The first shock for Za with Trevor holding that Bill. That could be absolutely massive for Za as Trevor goes into the cut in Bill. But that, as we all know, if you don't go deep into it enough into the cut, that doesn't matter. And that Bill just goes around. Using shock for that would be a waste. Let's go back to Zilla really quickly as shock is used to TS Zilla in first place. Will that be enough? It doesn't seem like it. That is still top 3 for 6C, even with the Za shock on Riverside Park. Unfortunately, Trevor did not go deep enough into the cut. That Bill just goes straight back into the road, meaning that even dodging here wouldn't have gained him much spots, if anything, and that Striker Shock leads to a top 3-6 on the side of 6C. Another top 3. It feels like we say this every race for now, but so far, it just seems like 6C are not letting off the gas one bit, even with Za chaining so many track picks. They're now up 68 in 5. That is a monstrous undertaking. Charlie being a bit of the sacrificial lamb here with 25 points as his teammates are all up in the 50s. But with a scoreline like that, can you really complain? Stubbs, Brody, and Zilla showing up when it is needed the most as we go into race 6, the halfway point of this uh, war, and already it kind of feels like the point of no return. If Zod doesn't shake off that momentum, they're simply just going to drown under 6C's pressure. And it seems like we do have a reset. Let me quickly look at the rep chat. Um, it is a 6. It is going to be a 6C reset. So mirroring Za's reset so far, claiming spots once again, obviously in that top 3. What what an absolutely dominant showing from 6C so far, Malasico.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was fixing
no,
the table.
no worries, no worries. I know. Sorry, I kind of caught you off guard. You can take your time. Take your time.
What was the question again?
I mean, it's more so a remark of just how dominant 6C have been for these 5 races.
Oh yeah. I mean, it is in this room now. It has just started with Striker just pulling like way too many builds on the Grand Archives for me to count. Like every other time I was glancing at this stream, I saw Bill, and I'm like, how? What? Of course, that's why Johnny pulled all the sharks. But I do believe that it was Johnny who disconnected on Riverside Park. So I don't exactly know whether.
Striker has, when we switched POVs to Striker, he had the shock intent. I do believe Johnny DC'd at the last second.
Okay, I wasn't entirely sure of that, but
No worries.
um, I mean Riverside was also like the one race so far where I haven't seen Striker pull a bazillion amount of builds. So him pulling shock there definitely means that when luck is not completely screwing him over, it is a lot more of an even matchup in the bagging side. But that's not what's fully deciding everything, because additionally, 60 has also just been the better team more all round, in my opinion. The Grand Archives, again as an example, they were pretty much always towards the front or holding dodges for their shock, which I think they were holding for quite a while. So I can't really complain about that. And what was the race after Twin Peaks? Twin Peaks was very similar. They 60 got into top spots early off, and then they just had Zilla hold blue for the entirety of lap 2 pretty much. And
Still not exactly sure how he lost that, in all honesty.
I
I don't know if
also don't remember.
yeah, blue holding. Part of my theory was maybe blue holding into Anana, but that's not possible anymore. So
Yeah, Draggable Blue Shells have been disabled ever since we have switched to CTC.
yeah, but yeah, I absolutely that's the thing with 6T versus Za so far. Aside from Cheap Island, 6T have already been in the top spots all throughout, even without Shock being in play. Za it definitely feels like they need more shocks in order to get back up to speed. And even then, on a track such as Riverside Park, on a track that as bagging heavy, even with them pulling shock, 60 were just so far gone in first, and Za just didn't play around shock. I don't know if that was not playing around shock well enough, maybe using their dodges to take cut instead of dodging the potential shock, but I don't think I've seen anyone dodge aside, and even no, even with Trevor messing up his bill, that would have been the only dodge available for Za. So even with shock being a potential factor, they have not managed to really break into those top spots yet. And unfortunately, at this point, it's becoming a pattern, and I'm afraid it's one that might follow for the rest of these two matches if they don't pick up the pace soon, because 60 with momentum is a terrifying team to go up against. We should be underway soon. Eight players out of 10 so far. Obviously, 60 going to choose to hold on to those spots again and trying to get another running track pick, which they haven't managed to get so far. To my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, Masako. I do believe they've gotten Rabbit Hole, and then it's only been Za track picks, correct? Aside from Lost Ruins, obviously.
I think that is the case. It
Grand Yeah,
when
it is the case. Yeah, yeah. Grand Archives, Twin Peaks, Riverside Park, and GP Island. That is the case. Um, they've been chaining those back and track picks, but really it hasn't managed to pay off at all so far. They've simply just not managed to break into the front, and when they have, either due to raw pressure or simply just jitters, mistakes, whatever you want to call it, they haven't been able to hold on to those top slots for long, as we've seen through Trevor's eyes. And really, I say the times, but really it was the only time that Za were into first where they weren't just immediately sniped or blued out from the 60 members. So really, 60 just gotten a chokehold over this game, and it hasn't stopped since. And I fear the moment that they get running track picks, it's only going to get worse. But we're gonna have to see if Za can maybe prove me wrong once again. I would once again. It's not slander. I do want to see Za beat the odds and try and get back into this match. Skyline Avenue, Flying Kingdom, being picked. Flying Kingdom actually being chosen by Za. Interesting. Trying to. I'm not sure if we're just trying to burn 60 track picks, but Flying Kingdom is definitely an interesting choice with them being in top 3. Maybe them just wanting to get shrooms to shroom up, but of course, the moment I talk about Flying Kingdom, Skyline Avenue, ladies and gentlemen, there's a running track pick for you. Not Color Wonderland, as we were expecting for most of this, but obviously still an extremely strong running track, banned even for a season due to how strong and how popular it was. 60 should be able to at the very least keep that top 2, but immediately triple reds could break into those top spots. Unfortunately, 2 of those go wide, with Zilla being forced to go tight here, as Trevor could immediately break that top 3 and prove me wrong. Brody still holding on to that green, but Trevor being immediately sniped out, and 60 are back in the front almost right after I said that, and the TC to top a lot off. Zilla holding 2 reds to try and get Stubbs and Brody in the front. Za had one opportunity to get back into the front, and it is immediately squandered as Zilla gets some nice red hits there with a Mega in the back, which most likely he's simply going to use to schlag it a little bit more. There's a blue, first one of the match, it seems, on Za's side, being thrown right at Brody's face. The Mega not connecting onto anyone, but forcing a little bit of slow and keeping Brody in second place for now. That Shroom is not going to help Zilla Schlag any more than that, but he might be able to take the cut here, and he is going to do so. A Shroom cut that we don't see him being taken very much, simply due to how little time they save, and he does go for the full cut, as expected, of our Division 1 MVP. Oh, a little bit of trouble there. Let's switch over to Trevor's POV really quickly to see where our second POV is. Triple greens in the back. That is top 3-5 for now, as we see 60 in the front as expected. Charlie chaining a star, getting into top 4 now. Trying to, or not top 4, sorry, top 3-5 still, as he does try and get Chris out of the way. Chris being the only member of Za close to that top 4, and you see that back split. And it does seem like a member of ZA actually got shock out of Johnny with that last with him being hidden so far. So great play by whoever that ZA member was. And Striker does get the shock immediately after. Amazing play by ZA, not giving up uh, at all. And shock being used there. Interesting. It does seem to be just an early shock to try and get back into the front with Chris chaining into 4th place and getting almost all the way to Zilla. And we do see Chris getting in all the way into 2nd place, but it seems like he was bumped out. Unfortunately, right as I said it, he's back into 4th place. Mega on the side of Trevor with a Mega behind him, going to be able to hold on to that 4-5 for now. It is a salvage job for ZA as they are in 4-5-6. TC going to be pulled by Chris, but it shouldn't matter too much. Bill going a little bit of a build indicator. Not sure if it's on anyone. Back green connects onto Chris, and it is going to matter in the end as Charlie passes him. Top 3-6 with another shock. It's the same race as Riverside. The shock being pulled out of Johnny didn't matter in the end. The shock being used to get Chris into 2nd and immediately getting forced out by Brody and Zilla. Unfortunately, we didn't have the POV, so it could have been simply a bit of a mistake due to nerves, but the result remains the same. Top 3-6 once again. This 6C team cannot be stopped. We had one season with them. We had not. We had one season without them dominating the CT scene, and they're right back. 91 points in 6 races. It's rough. It's really rough at this point for ZA. Even with the last 2 races being given the shocks, 6C just kept control the entire way through. And past the halfway point of the war, we're almost down 100. If we don't see a sliver of retaliation from ZA, I'm afraid to say that this first match already looks pretty down in the dumps here, as Flying Kingdom is going to get picked. Possibly ZA trying to just burn as many track picks out of 6C as possible. Yes, Airship Fortress going to be on the plate for 6C. But ZA possibly just already playing for that match too. Flying Kingdom is picked, another one of 6C's classic track picks alongside Color Wonderland. Uh, and alongside Call of Wonderland, but ZA either being confident enough to try it in 456 and 457, sorry, with getting some shrooms and shrooming up immediately on the ice section, or simply trying to burn some track picks. Not exactly sure which one so far. We're gonna have to see with their track picks later down the line. But for now, Zilla still in first for now. Gonna have to see if any Shroomers go past him. And it does seem like Callie is going to step up to the plate here. And we see Mike as well actually Shrooming up into first. And there's the one reason you would pick Flying Kingdom in those spots. Shrooming up almost immediately. ZA in 1-3 as we go into the glass tunnel, with Chris also right behind them. That is 135 for ZA as we go into the second third of lap 2. Chris should have one more shroom possibly to use here. Oh, hello, rollback. We're fine. Either way, a member of ZA actually does get hit out as 60 get into top 2-4, like, sorry, 2-4 to my knowledge, as Zilla does pull triple shrooms behind this triple green, should be able to get some distance as Charlie chains the Mega, gets ahead of Mike, Chris following right behind him, and there goes the Shroomless. We're gonna have to see how many of these players manage to make it, and it does seem to be all of them. Top 4 makes it all of them. Mike a little bit slower than the others, but that's the D1 that we want to see, ladies and gentlemen. But Zilla, quick on the draw, makes it into second place with the bomb box. Going to be quite the tough ordeal for Chris, but bumps into Charlie, gets bumped off. Chris dodges it as well. Trevor is holding onto the bill for Striker, possibly to try and chain if need be. We do see both baggers chaining Striker with the Rosalina, but it does seem to be Johnny moving forward, pulling that shock once again for 6C. Striker's Gambit not paying off as 6C is in another advantageous position. Back bomb connecting 2-3-5 for 6C. Not exactly sure where. I do believe Charlie is still in first, actually, so that should be top 3. my mistake. 145 for 6C here as we go into the spiral. Bag Green's not going to connect. We do see Mike and I do believe that was Chris. Exactly. Chris up there in 2-3. If they can hit out Charlie, that could be absolutely massive. No shrooms for Zilla this time. Not going to be able to take the cut as we see members of ZA pulling up in stars and dodges right behind him, but we know that 60 have the shock. It seems a member of ZA failing the cut. Chris into second. That I believe that is Mike failing the cut as ZA gets into 2-5-1-3-4 on the side of 6C with not even needing the shock from Johnny there as there is another winning race for 6C on one of their classic track picks, and we do see Mike in 7th. That was indeed him failing the cut on lap 2 after making it on lap 1. Really unfortunate. Not exactly sure if there was possibly an item in the way that forced him out or that he tanked, but either way, 1-3-4, another winning race for 6C. It feels 1-3-4-6, different spots, different verse, but same as the first. 6C holding on to their lead and only widening the gap. Striker was going for shock simply because Trevor was holding the bill. So maybe they felt that they needed the shock to get Charlie out of first. I think that was the play there. All things well, granted, you would still give Johnny the box in 10, so possibly a little bit of tilt play, possibly thinking that you just need those big races and you're willing to take the risk at this point. But down 100 with 5 races left to go. Mathematically, not impossible, but definitely looks pretty dire. We're going to have to see what their track pick strategy becomes for now. Maybe burning Color Wonderland or tracks along those lines, just trying to burn those tracks that 6C is particularly confident on. And Marble Towers is going to be their next target. At this point, Azah have gone full damage control, simply trying to burn as many tracks as possible before the start of match 2, and they are going to succeed. Once again, Marble Towers is going to be the pick for Za as we burn another one of 6C's 6C's more prominent track picks with Zilla and Brody. As we know, both of them really consistent on the first railing cut after Cannon. We'll stay on Zilla's POV for the time being simply to see it in action. But yeah, Marble Towers, pretty classic track pick for them, and it is going to be denied for match 2. Za simply just trying to get as much of leeway as possible. Brody and Zilla, as we stated, immediately making that cut, the two of them, and Za already in the back, already in bottom 4. Uh, in 6C already having such a huge lead, and we're not even halfway done through lap 1 yet. Ooh, Zilla, a little bit of a fail there, but should be more than fine, as 6C are pretty far gone in top 4 already. That POW is not going to matter much. Losing Nanas and Shells, but Zilla getting triple shrooms, the God pull into lap 2 should be pretty far gone in first, alongside his teammate Brody. But for now, the damage control strats is not working out for the current match, as 6 are simply just gone in top 4 for now. Pretty expected to see Stubbs and Charlie just try and sorry, I'm losing my voice. Charlie and Stubbs just trying to get some schlagging work done possibly, but Zilla failing the railing right as we were talking about it. Trevor does get a TC. Will he be able to pass it to Zilla in the respawn? It doesn't look like it. It's rather close, but it will not connect. Trevor, the only person that was close to top 4 for the time being. Mike picks up the baton where Trevor left it, and Triple Shrooms is going to allow him to catch back up somewhat. But both baggers also still going backwards. I do believe both of them, at least Johnny, respawning rather soon, so no bagger should have shock just yet. Zaz still quite in the tough spot as we go into the end of lap 2. Mike in 5, possibly holding Shroom's going to try and catch up at least a little bit. Single red for Trevor in 7, definitely not what you want here. And both baggers are going for, one of the baggers is going forwards, I believe. Might be mistaken. Oh, there goes the marble there. Wonder where Zilla is. Let's quickly switch over POV as Trevor is kind of stuck in the back, and Zilla is simply holding a Mega in 4th and is failing the cut once again. Thankfully, not falling off just yet, and losing his dodge in the process, but losing a little bit of time regardless. There's the blue being thrown, but does it really matter at this point? dear viewers, I would like to ask you, we do see Striker moving forward, possibly just dropping for one of his teammates. If it is a shock by 6C, it could just simply be used here and guarantee that top 4, but it is not going to be used. It could be a Striker shock, or it could be simply deeming it not as necessary. Striker does have a start, so it should be a 6C shock, and they simply deem it not necessary for that top 4. 6C just keep widening the gap again and again and again and again as a top 4 is is dished out by Sixth Sense onto Za, which should widen that lead once again to around the 130, 160 even maybe. No, not 160. 160. What am I saying? Sorry. Around a 139. No, not 139. So sorry, I'm losing my marbles here. Uh, losing my marble towers, as they say. Um, should be around a 130 lead on the side of Sixth Sense there, as we do have only one GP left, 135. I was somewhat close actually. But yeah, that is an absolutely a monstrous undertaking at this point. Pretty much guaranteed to lose unless you all run the entire last GP. That is mathematically impossible for the top 4, for the top 4-9 that we're used to, even for all 4 races. So either Za simply cut their losses, they burned a couple tracks, they just go into the next match with a fresh mindset, or they simply try to just burn more of those tracks, and we see the Color Wonderland being picked out. But 6C retaliate with Obstagoon's Palace, another track that they're actually quite familiar with, to my knowledge. But burning Color Wonderland before the next match could be absolutely massive. Brody and Zilla being the top 2 in the time trials leaderboards, or at least they were last I checked. I might be wrong on that. Maybe Akira passed one of them. But yeah, it could be an absolutely massive burn before we go into match 2. Will their track luck remain? And it will. Color Wonderland being burned out before match 2. And Za having made quite the progress when it comes to just burning those track picks. Color Wonderland, Marbles Towers, Flying Kingdom, 3 of the most iconic 6C track picks just gone immediately. And we're trying just to give them the best chances before going into the next match here. But Zilla immediately pulling triple res that should pretty much guarantee that they hold on to, at the very least, top 3, as I do believe that was Trevor being bumped off and Mike pulling a TC. Charlie, unfortunately, maybe falling off. It definitely seemed like it. Zilla going to take up the mantle in top 3. Striker is running and actually in 4th with a Mega as Mike falls off the cut. But the top 3 of 6C already being so far gone into the front, all of them taking the cut. I do believe it was either Zilla or Stubbs taking the safer version, but they're already so far ahead with Charlie still in 5th, top 3-5, as Johnny is going to have free reign over those boxes and going to be able to just get as many shocks as they can. Let's quickly check onto Trevor here, wonder where he is at this point in the race, possibly in 9th. Indeed, he was in 9th, but pulled the bill, and that could mean Johnny already has, and in which case it's going to look pretty dire for Za as we go into the second half of lap 2. Striker barely managing to make that even without the trick, but missing the trick means that Charlie does get into 4th with triple reds. Striker using the shrooms there to try and make the cut, and barely manages to make onto it, but he is going to get... He would have gotten redded out immediately if it wasn't for that triple green pull. Simply going to try and deny that top 4 from 6C. Striker definitely not the runner you would expect to do so, more so used to lower divisions with EI. But that Mega is going to get him out. Lucky pull for Striker with the triple greens getting him out of a sticky situation, and Charlie with the Mega doing the exact same. Top 4 for 6C as we go into the second half of lap 3. And with Johnny most likely holding shock, not having a respawn for quite a while, I would expect it to just stay the same as 6C. Ooh, there was a bit of stream delay, it seems. 6C once again getting another top 4. Never mind. Charlie actually fails the cut, so that is simply going to be a top 3 6 or top 3-7 for 6C. Once again, top 3-6. Familiar sight, isn't it? As we, as Za maybe have not won the race, but they have won in the battle that they did want to win in, which was the track pick itself being burned out from 6C before the next match. Let me quickly look at the division rep chats. And that is going to be an FF called by Za, cutting their losses, managing to burn 3 track picks out of 60 with Flying Kingdom, Marble Towers, and Color Wonderland, closing out the match with a win with a 20-point penalty, might I add. 60 winning by 158 in 9 races with Brody and Zilla, of course, the dynamic duo, the power couple, however you want to call them, the two frontrunners of 6C breaking 100 in those 9 races. Stick around, folks, as we go towards that match 2. I will quickly use that break to give my voice a rest and possibly drink 2 gallons of water. I will be right back. My voice is dying. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it, buddy. Thank you. Like, I'm obviously exaggerating, but like, fuck me. So I need to take a quick bathroom break. I will be right back. While I have time while they wait anyway. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the CT Cup Division 1 semifinals between 6C and ZA. For those that haven't watched the first match, as you may see with the scoreboard on the bottom of your screen, it was quite the dominant performance by 6C overall across 9 races before ZA eventually threw in the towel after burning 3 track picks, Marble Towers, Flying Kingdom, and Color Wonderland, the 3 track picks that 6C are pretty renowned for, getting the small wins while they can get them as we go to the second match. Masako, any comments in regards to this demonstration of dominance that we've seen out of 6C?
I mean, after the very first GP, I already felt like that Za almost gave up because I believe race number 5 was GP Riverside by Za. At first, because there was a reset right after, um, I still thought, okay, yeah, maybe it was just a mutual pick or something like that. But when they picked Flying Kingdom right after, I was convinced that, okay, yeah, they've already given up by that point. And so it was only really the first GP, I feel like, that where 6C already kind of broke Za's spirit, winning by 64 if you exclude the pen. And then GPs 2 and 3 was Za just setting their sights on match 2 and a potential match 3 if they win this now, with just trying to burn as many of 60's tracks as they can with Riverside, Flying Kingdom, Marble, and Color Wonderland before, well, almost finally forfeiting.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly how it felt. Just the dominance all the way through. Correct me if I'm wrong, I do not believe ZA. I mean, no, it's not I do not believe. ZA didn't win a single map this entire way through. And even with them not winning a single one, it's not as if there were small wins either. Aside from Cheap Cheap Island, all of them were top twos, top threes, 1-3-4s, pretty dominant races, dominant showings all throughout. Johnny pulling quite a few shocks, admittedly, but even the tracks that Striker did manage to pull shock on, they didn't really matter as much as they should have or could have, as even with them, 6C just held on to those top spots. Obviously, Riverside Park being the biggest example, with them holding top 3 on Riverside Park with an enemy shock. And yeah, 6C just showing utter dominance all throughout this first match here. We do have a little bit of we do have a sub that we do need to talk about here, as Za actually swapped over Chris for Sparkster, as we mentioned before, which should give them at the very least a little bit more running power and maybe try and break the cycle of 6E just running away with at least one top 2 spots and just running away with the race altogether after that. Granted, Flying Kingdom, we did have a little bit of a change. We did see, I do believe it was Mike. Yeah, it was Mike going into the front early, but unfortunately not managing to keep up the pressure for long, as he was swiftly passed by Charlie and by Zilla at the start of lap 2. So hopefully having a bit more presence in the front should be a bit more favorable for Za and let them hold out for a little bit longer at the very least. But 6C definitely showing why they have such a fearsome reputation, and most likely are going to be the ones MI most likely are going to be awaiting 6C at the summit of D1. Once again, a comeback is always possible. This is Mario Kart Wii. I do not want to count my chickens before they hatch, but given the performance that we've seen out of 6C during this first match, it's tough to say otherwise. And let's see, so far we're just waiting for Striker, I believe. There's been a couple meat changes that I'm gonna need to get accustomed to, because ZA members just enjoy not having their names be their me
I
names, which makes
think we're
it...
waiting on Striker actually,
We
and
are
on
we
Striker
are waiting.
on Sparkster because Striker's in the room.
Oh, is Striker Shack?
I think.
Possibly. Yeah, Sparkster. Going to be our sub for Za, replacing Chris, which I do believe means that Mike is the person in second, would make the most sense. Changing is me. For my to destabilize me a little bit um, as we go into this match too. But regardless, yeah, currently waiting on Sparkster. Uh, Hopefully, will allow more frontal presence, which is what Za have been desperately lacking for most of this match so far. We're gonna have to see if that ends up shaking things up at least a little bit. Za have managed to do what they set out to do at the end of match one. Unfortunately, their track pick luck might just run out because I do believe 6C got like 2 track picks in 9 races the last match, but we're gonna have to see if Za can keep up that momentum in that regard. Regardless, though, hopefully it won't take too long for Sparkster to arrive. We're gonna have to see. Regardless, most likely anticipating 6C to be as dominant here. The momentum is absolutely on their side. They're now hosting uh, with odd placements. Sorry, hosting with odd placements and with the momentum of a plus 150 win on their side. Striker disconnected, so hopefully that means Sparkster should be in and at any moment. Um, Regardless, not much else to say about it, really, aside from waiting for this match to start. 6C being as maybe not as dominant as more dominant than their seedings would show, but definitely as dominant as their history would show with their eternal rivals, JZ, PRS, however you want to call them, mostly migrating to MK World. There really hasn't been a team with such a level of dominance that could maybe stop them at this point. If you're looking at the CTC predictions at the start of the season, everyone put Sixtense as their top seed, as their predicted winners for Division One, as they had really only MI and Omega with teams with former D1 experience, and even then, mostly low D1 experience. No, with of course no flame to either of those teams, but they were not near the level of prestige that a name like PRS had during those earlier seasons, and it means that for now 60 have remained mostly uncontested. Sparkster is joining us finally, meaning that I can stop this relentless monologue as Striker does join back. We're back into 10 as we go into this next match. Though I will be curious enough to check really quickly. 60 have, in fact, lost to MI by 30 points during the regular season, and it was with mostly their main lineup with already uh, with already replacing um, already replacing Charlie and with a different bagger. So it was with a somewhat of a different lineup and with the main MI lineup, but it is something to point out that MI did win against 6C during the regular season, making me eat my words before even the finals. But regardless, should be a pretty nice match as we get back into the swing of things. 6C having quite a few picks of theirs being banned away, flanking them would have been a usual pick for them, but Lost Fortress is going to also be pretty classic for them as we go into Race 1. Tropical Factory being picked up on the side of Za. Pretty uncommon track pick, really, with quite the strong Shroomless and Shroom Cut if you're able to do them consistently at the midpoint of the race. But unfortunately, their track pick luck has run out for now, as Lost Fortress is going to be our first our first pick for this match too, with 6C being quite confident on it. Brody and Zilla once again being extremely strong T tiers on that track specifically. That Mega Box at the end going to essentially allow them to stay in the front for quite a while. We're going to have to see if any Shroomers are uh, go into the front at the start. Vib being thrown away by Zilla, not wanting to accidentally trail his teammate Stubbs, does seem to be shrooming up, possibly a golden. A little bit of bump on the side of Zilla, but it does not bump him off entirely. Kali getting into Trevor, sorry, getting into third place here with Zilla pulling a Shroom, Fib being thrown, and actually failing in the cut here. Unfortunately, that Shroomless not gonna allow, being a little bit too tight and forcing him down with the red and the Shroom Brody, making it onto the railing. Stubbs slowing down a little bit. Not exactly sure if it's the Schlag or simply just a little bit of a running fail. But Trevor, with two Shrooms there, Brody going to go for the Mega Box, but Trevor is in a pretty decent spot. Brody most likely did get that Mega Box, trailing that Nana for the time being. If he didn't, Trevor is guaranteed the top spot, but if he did, Brody can absolutely try and get a good um, bit of Schlagging out of the way, but already getting some with that Nana as the POW doesn't connect onto either of top two, and the next Nana connects as well. But that does tell us that Brody did not get the Mega Box, which means that Trevor could have gone into first, but that second Nana did surprise him, and unfortunately Brody simply breaks away. Stubbs close behind the top two there as the Shroom is picked up on the side of Trevor in second place. Going to be quite a while until he can use them effectively, and no railing so far. Does Stubbs get onto the railing? I do believe he does, and that should allow him to get pretty close to Trevor in second place. That Shroom being burned. He needs the Mega Box here in order to try and contest Brody in first place. That Nana going to going to not allow him to follow right back after. Red skips and barely and barrels towards Brody, who's trailing a Fib, I do believe, so they could very well be a forcing him into Mega. And no, he simply chooses to tank it, but he is going to get comboed by Trevor. The Mega Box being the Mega Holder being a little bit greedy there. Zilla holding two Shrooms there. Stubbs also having Shrooms going to allow them to break into top three. Zilla barely behind Stubbs. The blue connects onto Stubbs. Zilla gets into first place with that last Shroom, and the the Shroomless not gonna make the same mistake as last time. Trevor avoids the back green. No item for Zilla there as he is still managed to break out with the railing, forcing Trevor wide, and that should be a first place for Zilla unless something terrible happens near the end. Let's switch over to Trevor really quickly to see if he can make a miracle happen. We did not see a shock just yet. Striker is going forward with Johnny respawning. It could be a last second shock. Shock bread maybe does not connect. It seems shock happens, cancels the bread, and that does allow Za to get 2-3-4. That is the first winning race for Za on a 6C track pick with that last second shock, allowing Trevor to cancel his red, and for Kali and Sparkster to dodge up into 2-3-4. A winning race for Za in this first race. Massive momentum shift from 9 losing races in a row, subbing in Sparkster, being able to finally get a winning race on the board. 2-3-4-6 with Striker pulling that shock in the end, allowing Za to get a winning race. I know I make it sound crazy, but considering how dominant 6C were during that first match, it's definitely quite surprising to say the least. But regardless, yeah, Zilla was the only person to just hold on to the top spot. Trevor stayed in second the entire way through. Stubbs immediately got blued the moment that he managed to keep in first, and that is +9 for Za as we go into race 2. Great job by them, allowing them to turn that race around. 2-3-4 getting Tropical Factory, keeping that momentum going. And as it seems, Za losing on their track picks, but winning on 6C's track picks, one of the only ones that they've gotten in those 10 races. Delfino Island and Banished Keep being picked up on the side of 6C. Two tracks that we know they're pretty confident on. Older, more technical tracks. Well, granted, I say that Zai is picking Tropical Factory, and matter of fact, it is going to get picked up as we go into race 2. Really important setup here for that first cut around the fountain. If any of the ZA members are able to just get into it early on, it could be Trevor just going around and letting his second place go into it. But it seems like there was a little bit of a bump here as first place is the only one that can take the cut and simply goes off. ZA are in bottom 3 at the start of this race, but it does mean that they're going to be able... Oh, never mind, Brody's in 8th. But it does mean that ZA are going to be able to get some Shrooms early on to try and take the cut. Let's see where Zilla is. Most likely still in first, possibly. Indeed, holding in that first place for now. Possibly going to try the shroomless, the shroomless cut around, rather through the U-turn. Those who remember Soon for the Win, going for that cut quite often, and more often than not, doing it quite during it when it wasn't really necessary. But in this case, Zilla does have quite a bit of pressure, and he is not going to go for it. He's simply going to choose to try and block it, block the shroom cut itself, and it does seem to not be effective enough as the shroomers do manage to make it through. Trevor goes around, but we do see a lot of ZA up there. That is 2-3-5 on this 2-4-5 on the side of ZA with Charlie in 3 and Zilla in first. There has been a hit out, and unfortunately it is Mike Za being forced out of the top two as we go into the last section of lap 1 in that conveyor belt. If anyone gets triple shrooms, that could be pretty big. We do see, I do believe that was that Mike? Either way, a ZA member going into the top path here and actually taking the full cut, and it is, never mind, it is Cali, my mistake, and taking the fountain cut right after going for the full cut. Zilla pushing him back into first, bumping him, and Brody actually makes it into first place as well. That is top two for 6C as we go into lap 2. No shrooms for now with that POW, so it means that they're going to be forced around the cut. If there are any cut takers, it could be pretty big, but Trevor pulls a TC as we do see 6C in top 4 with Trevor being forced out, and now top 4 having quite the break as we go into the second third of lap 2. Unfortunately, baggers are not going to be able to really do anything about it, as this is a horrendous map to bag. But Striker actually does have the shock. I'm immediately proven wrong. Trevor does not have a dodge, but perhaps his teammates do as we go near the cut. Uh, just simply, 60 simply throwing items onto the cut, trying to block it as much as possible. Does Trevor get a dodge here? Possibly a star. Very important here. Charlie does fail the cut, and immediately the shock is called right after the ramp for the top two. Sparkster and Mike going after, following after, but Sparkster going to be stuck in quite the TC battle. Mike hits out the top two, and it is now top two for Za with Trevor holding a shroom right behind Mike. That is an absolutely massive race, but the random green connecting with Mike. Unfortunate for the Za member, as Zilla is now in second with two greens behind Trevor. It could be an absolutely massive hit. If that fit connects, it's thrown up. Will it connect onto Trevor? It doesn't seem like it. That is top two for Za. Top 2-4 with Sparkster shrooming up after. That's another winning race for Za. Top 2-4. Even with that 60 shock, this is a complete mirror of the first match. Za winning that second race in quite the dominant fashion. Top 2-4 with two of them members able to take that last cut. Striker managing to get the shock on such a horrendous track to bag, and it paying off dividends for Za. Oh, sorry, that was Zash. What am I saying? That was Shock, my bad. Unfortunately, Mike actually got 5th and Sparkster 7th, but that is still top 257, and that is a plus 20 lead on the side of Za into race 3. 6C being a little bit shaken up by the shock on Tropical Factory. Sparkster unfortunately not managing to catch back up as he was caught in a TC battle with, I do believe it was Stubbs, if I'm not mistaken, that managed to pass him a TC. But that is a massive start for Za, seeing the mental game. That is what I want to commend most of all. You just lost your first match by 150 points in 9 races, and you managed to get back up, and you managed to, in 2 races, get 2 winning races in a row, breaking double digits and doing more so than that. 20 points as we go into race 3, and Ghost House could actually be the pick, a track that I have yet to commentate on the top stage, but unfortunately, for me, for my own experience, and unfortunately for Za, Delfino Island is going to be the track that ends up being picked, with Za being in top 2-5. Quite the interesting pick here. Maybe 60 feel confident enough in possibly bumping the Za top 2 off of the roof here. We're going to have to see what this decides to go for. Maybe Trevor goes for the roof as well. Actually, Trevor... Oh, no, never mind. I'm silly. Of course, neutral bounce is going to be the tack of choice for Zilla, the one that popularized it and going to immediately get him into first, and 6C immediately throw Za into hot water there. And as I say that, Brody falls off the track with Za in now 2-3-5. Bomb being thrown up, and it is going to connect onto Sparkster, eliminating one of the members of Za in that top four. Johnny being the first bagger in 10th, to my knowledge, if there wasn't any lag here. Za in 2-4, but that is a pull that could allow Trevor to possibly break that top three even further. Going to wait for a little bit, going to make sure that those reds connect. One of them is going to connect onto, unfortunately, a cardboard box, but Shroom being lost by Shroom being lost by Cali there is absolutely massive. Unfortunately, Zilla going to make the neutral bounce again. Zilla is just gone in first. That is his domain, his track. As 6C try and 6C follow up right behind him. Johnny still in 10th for now, from what I'm seeing at the very least, as Trevor holds on to that last red. Za in a lot of bottom spots for now. Brody falls off once again, it seems, as Za gets into 4-5, but that is still a top three on the side of 6C. There's a lot of work to be done on the side of Za to continue their winning streak. Can we get a quick POV switch to Striker? I do believe one of the baggers is pretty much gone in 10. It is Striker with Johnny in ninth. It could very well be Johnny holding onto a shock. Trevor gets hit out during the POV switch. Unfortunately, we did not have time to see that, but it should be a Johnny shock as we go into the last. Should be a Johnny shock as we go into the last lap. 6C still in really good shape, as we do see Cali actually making it to second place and Mike making it to fifth as 256 on the side of Za with that bill, dropping Mike right before the cut, allowing him to take it regardless, but that is without a chain. Could be pretty dangerous between two 6C members. We do see Johnny actually still, I believe he's still chaining in 9 actually. He could still be chaining for it. We have not seen a shock being used just yet. Trevor gonna shroom up Mike, unfortunately getting hit out. Back right into back bomb, going to connect onto Trevor. Charlie doing the work here to prevent any glimmer of hope on the side of Za, as it is going to be a top 3-7 for 6C. They strike back, and they strike back fiercely, ladies and gentlemen. An absolutely massive race. Zilla, once again, just proving that Delfino Island is his domain. Uh, I do believe, or at least to my knowledge, he is the one that's popularized that neutral bounce, and simply is just the most consistent player in this game at it, and we've seen it doing it 2 out of 3 laps. Zia still in the lead by 13 points, even after all of that by 6C. They're still in the lead, but that momentum finally shaken off. 6C waking up a little bit, and off the back of Zilla just managing to get that winning race, managing to get back into this match. But hopefully Zal will still be able to get another winning race, get another surge of momentum as we go towards the end of that GP1. Allow me a little bit to take take a little bit of water. I am dying. Either way, Darkness Temple is going to be picked on the side of Za. Another more obscure track pick that they're known for. Dark Matter Shrine, I have to assume, is a little bit of a misclick on the side of Mike. Managed to keep BC4. Two classic picks on the side of 6C. I'm going to assume Dark Matter Shrine is on the list simply because of how popular it is, so at the very least it wouldn't be a penalty by -20. And it is going to be Darkness Temple by one pick, thankfully, that is going to get picked by Za. Darkness Temple, newer track pick, newer track on the pack, and quite the strong shroomer, quite the strong shroom cut at the start and near the end. Anyone that has played this track knows how much this track revolves around the shroom pad that is at the end. Unfortunately for both baggers. It is sitting at first set, but Trevor does pull the bill for Striker, quite the strong first pull, and that should allow him to get quite the lead into this bagging battle. A member of 6C falling off, I believe. Unfortunately, not quite sure. Trevor's going to hold on to. Oh, and is Zilla falling? I was about to say, let's switch over to his POV because Trevor is most likely going to hold off for that bill for a little while. At this point, Zilla most likely. Ooh, and that isn't failed by Zilla in eighth. Maybe a track he's less used to playing, a newer track on the list. And Trevor is simply going to break away from eighth with this bill. Unfortunately, no real advantage to being in eighth for now for Zilla as the bill is unable to be pulled. Stubbs with that TC going to lose quite a bit of time as well. It was passed to Sparkster, but it is passed right back to Stubbs. Great play by uh, Great play by Sparkster. If I saw that correctly, I don't want to say anything stupid, but I do believe Sparkster passed it back. Either way, Trevor now in fourth with that bill, and I do believe Johnny unfortunately has the shock. Yeah, the bill is going to be used right away. Johnny pulled the shock and is now running away with it. The striker is simply chaining in 10th there. Trevor billing up into third place, 60 in top two, with Charlie having taken the cut on lap one. Brody hot on his trail, and it's up to Trevor to try and break those top spots, even with that that shock already being pulled on the side of Johnny, hiding behind that pillar, going to try behind a pillar in the sand, I assume. Indeed, going to try and make sure to avoid any potential shock and not deniers, but that TC that might actually be enough. Will it pass? No, Johnny was a little bit too tight, and unfortunately, Trevor not able to use that TC to his advantage. Going to be slowly coming back. We do see Stubbs falling off behind um, the screen there. Zilla with the star going to try and head out. Trevor, both our POVs, unfortunately in the back. We don't have much view in of the front for the time being, as that shock is still being held. Let's switch over to Zilla's POV for now. I assume possibly. Oh, I was about to say possibly holding shrooms, but never mind. Going to be triple reds, possibly going to schlag a little bit. Trevor breaking all three of those reds without even really trying to, as that last shroom is going to be chained by Zilla to try and get one last dodge before the end, and it is going to be triple shrooms. Unfortunately, Zilla, if the shock is used, he's not really going to be able to benefit from it. Maybe going to deny some cuts from Za, I would assume. Possibly shocking here in order to deny item boxes as we go over the cuts. And it is going to be a slow by Trevor. Great play by him, preventing 60 from taking those boxes and taking the cuts in the same breath. But we do see two people failing that cut. Not exactly sure who, but with Za being so far in the front, it does seem to be 6C failing the cut, showing exactly why Za are so used to this track pick, and they are at the very least 3-4-5, or at the very least they should be. They seem to be. There seems to have been a TS, but Trevor is unfortunately going to be 7th, so that is going to be 3-4-5-7 on the side of Za. 6C chaining another winning race after that Delfino Island, and it should be around even as we pass that first race of GP2. Unfortunate. Trevor holding on to that bill, but it is Johnny that pulls that shock, and it means that Za don't really have an opportunity to get back up to speed as Johnny just runs away with a shock. Trevor unfortunately had the right play with that TC, but is just not able to pass it back, and what do you know? That table is wrong. Striker has 3 points. Johnny has one. So Za are ahead by. Uh, Za is ahead by 4 points as we cross the line of that GP1. So I'm gonna make sure to correct that really quickly as we go into race 5. So we're gonna have to see if uh, my mistake. We're gonna have to see if Azat can hold on to that momentum. They had the momentum in the first two races. Darkness Temple not going in their favor simply due to a shock difference. Even though they played the start well, they managed to give Trevor that TC immediately. And Cruel Angel's Thesis, another new track that's in Za's arsenal, as BC2 is chosen by 60, a classic running track pick, and it is going to be Cruel Angel's Thesis being picked up. The track picks once again being in Za's favor for now. Although really, the track days that they have won, well, one of the track days that they won was a 6C track pick, so perhaps maybe not as important as we thought they would be. But regardless, Cruel Angel Cease is quite the strong Shroomer at the start. If you pull triple Shrooms, you can absolutely just run away with this race there. Trevor staying in 8th and pulling a star. Unfortunately, not the item that you necessarily want. An immediate back bomb onto Brody, preventing any triple red shenanigans. Trevor chaining that star to try and get some shrooms, which is exactly what he pulls. All ooh, I was about to say everyone making cut. It is the case. Two people simply going around without any shrooms, and Za being in 135 for now. Stubbs trying to make it into that top 4, but Zilla has 2 more shrooms behind Cali. It'll be up to Cali to try and possibly schlag Zilla out of that second place. If not, Zilla is just going to run away with with the race here, as we do see another member of 6C sneaking into third place. Not exactly sure who, we're going to have to see later, but so far, a lot of mind games going on between those two players. The classic 1v1 that we know and adore from Mario Kart Wii. Callie, not exactly sure when that shroom is going to get dropped, but that is an early shock on the side of Za, I believe, exactly. Sparkster dodging, and that does deny 6C's shrooms in a top spot. Charlie does break his way into 4th, but Sparkster absolutely running away with the race. Trevor in 7th, holding that POW that is most likely going to possibly be chained, but Za now in, at the very least, 2-3, as Brody makes his way into 1st. Is going to be extremely close. Do both players take the cut? Brody backs Sparkster onto the cut, and that is going to prevent him from taking it. No, it isn't. Sparkster does make it still, and that is going to be top 2 for Za, even with Sparkster getting backed on the cut. Kali breaking into top 3 with that golden. It's top 3 for 6 for Za, but that blue is going to stay. Otherwise, Zilla holding on to it for at least a little bit, but he is going to hit the pillar. Unfortunately, Mike does eat that blue, and Striker actually does pull a second shock as well, using that first shock, and another blue on the side of 6C, chaining 2 blues immediately, and that is going to be connecting as well onto Cali. The top 3, and a bomb onto 2 as well. That top 3 from Za just being dismantled by those blue shells, but Zilla unfortunately gonna eat a TC. Cali getting redded out. Let's check up on Trevor really quickly. In 5th, will he be able to hold on to that spot? It is still 135 for Za, even after 2 blues. That is still a massive race for them. 145, sorry, as we go across that finish line. Shock is going to be used, and it's going to dodge Cali as well. That is 1-4-5-6 for Za, even after 2 blues. They're still able to get a winning race out of this. A massive, massive race for Za. Oh, goodness. 2 blues in a row, a back bomb onto 2, and that is still going to be a winning race for them. I'm sorry, I will be right back. All right, I am back. My apologies. Slightly, slightly berated by a neighbor, but it's fine. We're fine. Banish Keep going to be picked on the side of 6C. They're finally managing to get a pick after Darkness Temple, and um, I already lost the I lost the plot. Sorry. And Cruel Angel Cease is going to be able to pick the Banish Keep, going to try and get back into this match, as Za has still managed to make quite the upset so far, getting up 15 as we go across the halfway point of the map here. Trevor going to go around, possibly slowing down a little bit, just trying to get some shrooms as we go into the first cut, and thankfully managing to get triple shrooms in fourth there. Immediately going to use them. Mozilla is hot on his trail immediately. Our two POVs in the top three. Sparkster and unfortunately, Trevor messes up the TF cut, meaning that he is going to be stuck in the back for now. Let's switch over POVs to Zilla really quickly, who should still have two shrooms in his inventory. Never mind. Um, Either using a single shroom or simply just shrooming away from Sparkster to break from the pack here. Zilla should stay in first regardless and let Sparkster manage to pull a shroom in second. Doesn't seem likely as he goes around. Both baggers still in their bagging battle for now with Johnny barely ahead, and it does seem like we have a DC as they're in 8th and 9th respectively. Gonna have to see if it is a ZA member or a 6C member, and it does seem to be a ZA member, unfortunately. Seeing seeing the people that are behind Zilla so far. Let's switch over to Trevor's POV to try and get a better view of this whole race so far. We do see Charlie, we do see Zilla, and unfortunately, it does seem to be a potential ZA DC here. Either that or is it Stubbs who is in the back? ZA still unfortunately pretty far back in 5, 6, 2 out of the bottom 3 spots for the runners so far. Johnny in Johnny's still in 10th, I do believe, not quite sure. Uh, should pay better attention, lately. We do see Stubbs in the back, yes. So it is unfortunately a ZA DC, meaning that they are quite at quite the disadvantage as we go into lap 3. There we see Charlie, we see Zilla in top 2, 4 with Brody. Their spearhead in the front for now. Sparkster trying to possibly break that top 2 in third place here with Shrooms as we see him go into the cut. Let's switch over to Zilla's POV really quickly to see where he ends up. Zilla is in first, actually. It could be a Brody DC. I'm honestly, unfortunately, not quite sure. We haven't gotten a full view of the track so far, but Sparkster manages to get into first ahead of Zilla. Definitely quite the scary opponent to go up against in a top 2 war here as we go into the second half of lap 3. And an immediate backfib is going to connect. Brody managing to catch back up in 3-4 here with Mike getting into second. And there's the shock into the blue that is going to connect onto Sparkster, unfortunately, meaning that he's going to lose a lot of time onto that, and Zilla does get a golden as well to catch back up. It did dodge Trevor. Trevor should be able to keep first regardless, as our two POVs end up in top 2 with Stubbs in third, Brody in Stubbs in third, Brody in fourth, so that should be 2-3-4 on the side of 6C with a ZA member DCing, if I'm not mistaken. I most likely will be corrected by that. Gonna have to see on the result screen, but regardless, still a decent race for 6C. Unfortunately for Zilla pulling that golden pretty much cemented him getting at the very least a decent spot. Otherwise, it's Sparksnook maybe could have broken away, but it is going to be 2-3-4 with a Cali being the one that DC'd and 6C get another winning race. Still, maybe being enough to break into the lead. It should not be enough in 2-3-4. Let's get a quick check over to our media bot here, and it is going to be still in the lead for ZA as they are up 8 points after that race. After that race 6, even with a 2-3-4 on the side of 6C. Callie and Trevor being second and third, with Zilla being the only member of 6C to break into the top 4 in divs with 58 points, trying to carry his team for the time being. Being, of course, the Division 1 MVP, expected to score that much, but unfortunately, so far, hasn't been enough for 6C to break into the lead. They've managed to get some good races. They've managed to get some winning races. They managed to get some points on the board, but it has not been enough to break away in front of ZA so far. they've stayed behind and they've stayed completely they stayed firm overall, getting the shocks that they need, getting the front spots that they need to stay ahead in this war so far. It did look pretty dire for it did look pretty dire for a second as the blue was thrown for Sparkster, but the shock allowed Trevor to pick up the baton where Sparkster left it and stayed in first to salvage what could have been quite the terrifying Spanish keep race. I'm going to use this quick opportunity to give a little bit of mag time to Masako if they're alive.
I am very much alive.
Okay. Definitely, definitely really different showing from Za that we've seen compared to the first match. I gotta say, I'm extremely surprised, happily so, that it's this close for now.
I mean, I don't want to say that Sparkster is like the full difference maker, but I feel like it has definitely been partially Sparkster that has been making a difference here. Another part is definitely that they've just gotten an overall better start, luck-wise in the bagging battle, because last time we had Striker just pulling a lot of builds early on, which led to Za being absolutely destroyed momentum-wise, and they were just never able to recover from that, not getting a single winning race in the entire first match.
Yeah, Za definitely have turned the lurk around when it came to shocks. They've pulled a lot of them across this first half of the war. Striker definitely showing that he can hang out with some of the best baggers in the game after so much time being I don't want to say laughing stock, but let's be honest here. Striker has had his fair share of being rage baited, of being memed at, and he's showing that in this Division One for semis, he can absolutely be among the better baggers in Division One, and it's really showing so far as Za is still ahead as we go across the halfway mark, but you can't sleep on 6C. They still have gotten some really good races. They've managed to claw their way back from some really tough races, even in the second war. So really, it feels like it feels like Za are holding on to a raging bull at this point. Maybe not the perfect analogy, but it definitely fits in my opinion. Just trying to hold back whatever they can, salvage the races that they can, even if they're in the lead. 6C with the dominance that they've shown during match one could absolutely turn up at any moment. So they need to keep the momentum up. They need to keep the gas pedal pressed, and so far they have managed to do that, and hopefully they will continue to do so during the second half of the war. But as you've said, Moscow, you're absolutely correct in one regard. I genuinely do think that Sparkster has been a big difference maker for Za. He was one of the main point scorers alongside Cali. We did talk about that during the pre-match, but he's been one of the few members of Za that has been pretty consistently in the top spots. He's been blued 2 to 3 times, I believe, already, and the 1v1 he managed against Zilla on Banish Keep arguably was the thing that allowed them, alongside the dodge of Trevor, of course, is what allowed them to salvage that race onto Banish Keep. Because if 6C get top three on that Banish Keep race, we'd be having a totally different speech right now.
I mean, totally, because I. When was Darkness Temple? Darkness Temple was race 4.
Race three,
Yeah, we had
race three.
Cruel Angels Pieces in between, which was also a pretty good race for Za. But I mean, just after Darkness Temple, the scores were tied, it and then big winning race for Za. But if 6C had gotten a huge race on Banish Keep there, it would have definitely been them in the lead again, and especially since they whoa. Sorry,
You're
especially
good. You're
since
good.
if they got top three, they would have gotten their spots back for for now after the reset. It definitely would have given them the potential to snowball off of that. So how it played out now is definitely better for both Za and probably for the suspense going into the rest of the match.
Absolutely agreed. But yes, the 6C with the momentum as we've been shown can be an absolutely terrifying force to go up against. And Za have managed to hold off that momentum for now, keeping that first on lock as we go into race 7, the second half of this war. And so far, I will say I am really excited to see what ZA have in store for the second half. They've been showing up a lot more than than I was about to say some people that I've been giving them credit for. I fully expected 6C to be as dominant as their first match with maybe a little bit more leeway for ZA due to the lineup change, but they've shown that they're in the semifinals for a reason, and they will hopefully be able to keep the lead for from 6C for possibly even the rest of this match. But GBABC4 is going to be our pick, and this is one of 6C's strongest tracks by quite a wide margin. And in 234, it's going to be a tall order for Mike to stay up there. Granted, with his experience in SY, he is more than familiar with this track and immediately going to try and red out Brody, but it doesn't pan out as Zilla just immediately hits him out. Trevor is hit out, and 6C are immediately in such a strong position as we see them in, I believe, top 246. Let's switch over to top 256, sorry. Let's switch over to Zilla's POV really quickly in sixth place as we do see Sparkster and Callie, and there's a back bomb onto the last two members of Za in bottom two, and Callie's head out as well. Sparkster is the only member of Za in that top five, surrounded by 6C members. The Sharks are smelling blood in the water, and Sparkster is bumped a little bit, going to get back up to the fourth. But there's finally a blue on the side of Za, which hits Brody, but Sparkster is bumped off the track entirely. 6C in top four, and Zilla just adding insult to injury hop dodges with triple shrooms, meaning that he should just break away even further and possibly even give his team blue protection as we go into lap 2. Look at that top 4 break. Not that much of a break just yet, but given the fact that they're barely at the start of lap 2 and top 4 is already somewhat breaking, Trevor is going to try and somewhat reduce that gap a little bit with a golden in five there, chaining one more shroom. Brody gets a TC in fourth, but he is going to pass it immediately onto Trevor. And I don't know if he's able to pass it without slowing down. It doesn't seem like it. Trevor immediately getting bunk, bumped right away out of that top four. But following up is Mike and Sparkster. Brody got hit out, or possibly simply just got comboed after he passed that TC, and the blue is going to connect onto Charlie. Unfortunately, Mike does hit that Magic Koopa, meaning that he is going to lose a lot of time. Zilla still with the blue, sorry, with blue protection in the front with a Shroom. Trevor getting bumped up out by Brody there and forcing getting forced into 8th with that Mega. We do know that Striker has the shock, and he is actually going to use it immediately. Trevor being the only one to dodge in 8th, feeling that they just need to use it early to try and get up there, getting Sparkster in the set as well, and getting Brody and Charlie after set. Trevor gets into 4th place. Sparkster is still up there, still fighting all throughout that, and I do believe that actually he did dodge into front. No, never mind, that's Callie, not Sparkster, my mistake. Callie dodging in the front as well, but there's the blue shell. Za got to and 6C are getting one onto Cali there, and that's top two. Oh, and there's another blue shell. My goodness, that's four blue shells in a single race and two in a single lap. Stubbs will get blued here, which should break that top two once again. Trevor might be able to pass Stubbs after that chain here. It all depends on what items these two players are going to get. Red immediately thrown out. It's not going to connect. There's a Mega right behind them. If Stubbs gets drafted, that should be second for for Za, but there's a last second shock there, getting the person in the Mega frame one out, and Stubbs is not letting himself get drafted. That is going to be top 2-5, I believe, for 6C. Another winning race. They keep chaining, and Stubbs just played that final straight expertly there. The shock preventing the draft, and then just making sure that he kept that second place all throughout. Striker using that shock extremely early, just allowing Kali to get into first, dodging in the mid spots. I thought that only dodged Trevor, but that is absolutely incorrect. That did dodge Kali in fourth with Omega, but the blue meant that he unfortunately was not able to keep that first place for very long. Top 267, another winning race for 6C, and I do believe that we should be tied going into race 8, or at the very least, very close. 1 point. 1 point ahead for the 1 point ahead for Za as we go into race 8. They're still holding on, but 60 are chipping away at that lead as they've done throughout the past few races, and they're smelling blood in the water. They're really close to just finally getting that lead back. Za have been holding on to this lead since race 1, only technically losing it for just a single race with a tie, but we're still holding on to that lead for Za, and Bowser's Termination Station could absolutely be the place to do it. But BC Tour Final Grounds, both of these tracks could be utterly disastrous there, as we know how strong 60 is on both of them. But BTS, no relation to the Korean group, is going to be taken up by Za as we go into the end of that GP2. Definitely the track that they need to try and stabilize a little bit with the mid spots, going to be able to take those shroom cuts early on and in the middle of a race. The only unfortunate part is that it is sitting, so it is going to be a bagging battle, well, a bagging battle, quote unquote, that's going to most likely come down to either raw dumb luck or simply someone getting starred over the set. Trevor throwing that box that fib early, but it is going to connect onto Stubbs, not onto Zilla. Definitely still what you want, regardless. That it does get Mike into third. Zilla, the second green, does connect onto Mike's. Trevor managing to dodge both. None of them attempting the shroomless variation of the cut that we've seen Boshi take during the other D1 semis, but Mike does take the shroom cut, and unfortunately getting backed at the start does mean that his first place, never mind, his first place does still, he does get his due first place by bumping Zilla out of first. Trevor not chaining that, not getting a second box for potential second protection, but it doesn't matter as Zilla's red does immediately fall off the track, and the second follows right after, meaning that Zilla now has no offensive pressure over Trevor. Never mind, he's going around and getting that triple green there, getting a bit more pressure for Trevor in second place, going to be still able to hold on to that second place for the time being. No chain on the item so far, getting a single red bomb being thrown up potentially at Mike. Will it connect? We will see. The POW does get Zilla on landing. The bomb does not connect. It does get Brody into third place though, and a mega in fourth for Zilla. An absolutely massive pull here as Brody does get bumped into an Anna, losing his top spot for now, as Trevor managed to hold them off for now. Striker does have the shock, which is absolutely huge on a track with a cannon such as this one. Though Trevor would need to break away from Zilla in order for that to make a difference. Zilla's going to hold on to that mega for at least a little bit, possibly predicting a shock from Mike into first place in the cannon. We're going to have to see how that goes. Charlie diving into the cut with a bill, getting into first place with Mike right on his tail, Callie in third, Zilla holding on to fourth place, an extremely close back for now. Zilla gonna use that mega, gonna try and predict that cannon dodge. It's not going to come just yet. They're going to deny that cannon dodge, meaning that Zilla used this mega for nothing so far. Callie does get back up to third place at 2-3-4 with a blue. That is a massive race for Za. If they can hold on to the top three, they should be able to get a massive lead going into the year. And they do have the shock as well, but one of their members does fall off, unfortunately.
I do believe that was Sparkster that fell off. They're still top two for now. No items for Zilla. He has to go for the Shroomless. He does go for it. Will it help him pass Mike? It doesn't seem like it. That is top two for Za. Top two, 5, 6, I do believe, as we finish that GP2. An absolutely massive race for Za as they pick up some more points to widen that gap. Wow. That suddenly Za just get into 2-3-4 with a blue, finally getting the advantage in this blue battle as they get top 2, 5, 6. That is a massive race for Za Striker getting the shock that they need to get back. No, not even really that they needed, just Za were able to get back up to speed and were able to take those top spots that we knew they needed for so long. 18 points ahead for Za as we finish that GP2. They might be able to prove the doubters wrong, the doubter in which case being me, as we go into GP3. That would be an absolutely monstrous upset. I will say that much. The fact that they didn't even need a cannon dodge for that is even more proof of the fact that Za were just able to take control of that race fairly well. Obviously, the blue helped, but even just holding on to 2-3-4, you have absolutely massive offensive pressure on first there as we go into that last section. And it would have meant that if not getting hit out, first could have potentially potentially just gotten pressured out of first. Unfortunately, Sparkster falling off does mean that they lose a little bit of potential points, but you cannot complain about top 256 in such a high pressure match. And unfortunately, they cannot chain the track pick as Spooky Swamp is going to be the pick for 6C, another newer track, but one that 6C have managed to um, sorry, let's try again. That 6C have taken quite a liking to as we go into the race 9 of this second match. Trevor going to get into first immediately with Mike hot on his trail. The red not going to connect thanks to that little bit of protection. Zilla staying in second for the time being. Let's switch over to his POV as he is going to be putting quite a bit of pressure onto Trevor there. The shroom cut not going to the someone taking the shroom cuts there, and it is Charlie actually getting to first. Great Nana by Trevor before going into the shroomless, getting the better of Zilla here. Until not getting the boost panel either, being forced into 8th for now with that golden, maybe going to be able to take the full cut. It does seem like it. First part of the golden cut is taken, and you would assume that the second one is a lot more doable for a player of this caliber, and Zilla is able to get back up into first easily. Let's switch over to Trevor's POV as we go into, oh, well, unfortunate timing, as we go into lap 2, and we see a lot of Za in the mid spots here. They're currently in 2, 5, 6, 8, unfortunately, not having a lot of top presence here, with Trevor being the only exception so far. Sparkster dodging the triple greens from Brody. Trevor doing the same as Trevor should be able to get back up into first. Sorry, not into first. What am I saying? Get into a better spot here as they go into 5th place, but that red is going to connect onto Trevor, leading them to a 7th place, with Mike being the only person behind them. I do believe so far 60 should still be in decent spot, but Zilla actually a little bit of a fail there as he unfortunately lands into a post, but it won't be for very long as there's a blue that will connect onto Cali there as he's also redded out, and that is a top 2 being picked up once again on the set of Zilla. Let's switch over bagger POVs really quickly because I do see one of the baggers going forward, and it is Johnny being being in the running here, which means that it is going to be a 60 shock. Unfortunately for Za, when you're already in the back for now, definitely not the kind of sight that you want to see. Trevor going to try and deny some potential dodges from Stubbs and Brody in the back there, but only a golden to his name so far. Johnny just hiding, trying to make sure that his shock is not denied. Trevor picking up a bomb could potentially get a hit onto Stubbs here, who's most likely holding a dodge at this point in the track. Sparkster using the star there to try and possibly deny a TS onto one of his top spots. Trevor going to chain, but it is going to be yet another golden. Will he also go for the full cut? It does seem like it, and it is a little bit sloppier, but at the very least we get the first part done, and unfortunately, no, not holding onto that drift means that you're stuck in the back. Zilla and Charlie still in top two throughout that entire thing, and Brody follows them in third. The shock does happen, and it is a Stubbs. Is Stubbs going to get back into the front in top four for 60? And the flame is snuffed out from right under Zaz's nose. Tremendous race on the side of 60, keeping those top spots all throughout. Get out Johnny getting the shock, leading to just a dominant race for them, and Stubbs getting the bill dodge right at the end, leading to a really huge race from 60 as they finally break back into the lead as we go into race 10. I will be right back. Sorry, just a lot of interruptions on my end. All right, back. And unfortunately for Za, as we can see on race 9, the flip finally happens. The lead is finally broken by that 6C top 4 in Spooky Swamp, which really, the Shock only secured 4th place. That top 3 was pretty secured from the get-go, with Cali unfortunately eating another blue. There was just a ton of blues in general this match, and it unfortunately did seem to land into Za's faces quite a bit of the time, and it's not going to get much better as BC2 is picked. For the first few turns of this race could absolutely decide the whole thing. Extremely strong running track, as I'm sure we all know by this point, as a bit of bumping at the start with one of the 60 members going to be held back a little bit. Trevor staying back to get the box 8 for his bagger. And Stubbs with the triple res going to do quite a bit of work in the mid pack there. Zilla going to try and deny Mike the lead, but Mike shrooming up into second here, dodging Charlie's Nana as well. But unfortunately, just falling off after shrooming all of this way, leading to Zilla getting into top two. Will we see another pow dodge? Hop dodge? We will not. That shroom in second is going to be denied, denying the blue protection as well. That has been so important for both of these teams, seeing how many times the blue has been pulled. Let's switch over to Trevor here, as Zilla is most likely going to run this alongside Charlie. Never mind. Just a little bit of a wall bonk as we go into lap 2, but Striker is in 10, so does have the advantage for shock. Unfortunately, going to need to respawn a little. Gonna need to respawn as both baggers go into negative lap 2. Trevor in 6th place here, going to try and use those shrooms to get back up closer to Brody here, as any shrooms or any dodges especially are going to be extremely important for Za. They are currently in 3-4-5. Any blues to report, none of them in sight for now. Could potentially already be held by 6C. Trevor going to break one of those nanas, going to uh, secure those mid spots for now, as Zai is in 3-4-5-6, with bottom two having quite the break. If blue is pulled, it could be an absolutely massive turn of events, but a TC is going to be what's awaiting Trevor in that 4th place box. A little bit of slowing, I assume. No, I assumed Callie was holding on to a Mega, but no, it seemed like there was simply a little bit of a wall hit, and it led to Trevor passing that TC to him. And unfortunately, it means that that top two from 60 is just going to stay gone. Striker respawning, Johnny moving forward, most likely a shock for 60 that could very well lead to disaster in the end. We see a lot of dodges coming up. Sparkster gets hit by a random green. as it is Mike dodging in third, but it is top 2-4 for 6C. Another strong winning race as they keep the momentum going in this last GP. It's sad. It's sad to see, really, as was holding on to the lead the entire time and it's slowly slipping away. 6C just holding on to those top spots the entire time. Even with the very few minor driving mishaps, they're still able to hold on to those top spots and have at the very least one Dodger at the end to make it into top 4. And so far, ZA have not managed to really do anything about that in this last GP, as 6C should now be ahead by around 25 points to my not 32. Never mind, but I thoroughly underestimated that. Oh, top 246. Yeah, that makes sense. Top 246 on the side of 6C as they are now up 32. They're above the 31 point threshold. That is the norm for the top 4-9, the best race that you can get in a Sui bag format. And unfortunately, it does mean that if ZA cannot win this next race, they're going to be forced to all run for the last race if they want a shot at staying in the competition and getting their ticket to finals here. Kanoko Cave, DS Airship, either of those picks could be absolutely massive for their team. That's going to be an extremely, extremely, extremely important track pick. It's going to come down to whoever Mr. Bean prefers on this day. And it is going to be the Airship Fortress in top 2-4 for 6C. That's not something you want to see if you're ZA. 1-4 can just take the rail, get a draft up, and just stay in first and second the entire way through, with second staying on the bottom path. We're gonna have to see how this plays out, but ZA need to make a move quick to break those top spots as soon as possible. And we do see Charlie getting into first, doing the exact strat that we expected. Top 3 for now for 6C as they go into the ship for the first time. Let's switch over POVs to Trevor for, I do believe, a 6C top 4 early on, which exactly what is going on here. Trevor with triple shrooms going to need to be potentially the saviors. Callie also shrooms up, breaking that top 4 with the two of them. Brody trailing that Nana in the spiral could be quite the scary sight. Not really any good spot to shroom on this track, so they're simply going to try just to raw outline Brody, which is exactly what they do, but Brody holding onto a red immediately gets them out of that top spot. Stubbs getting all the way down into 7th place, but that should help him deny possibly some dodges. But Trevor does get one, as we do see one of the. I do believe oh, never mind. Both baggers still hitting each other. My mistake. I thought I saw one going forward. Either way, Stubbs in 6 being the only one in the back so far, as if we switch over POVs really quickly to Zilla, I do expect them to still be in top 3. At the very least, Zilla is into first, that much is for sure. A possibly quick rear view, big man. We do see Charlie in second. We do not see Brody, but he could have stayed in third if no one has messed with him. But it did seem that there have been a bit of shakeup in the mid pack. Let's switch back over to Trevor for now, as we do see Brody in 4th place for now, with Callie making his way up into 3rd place. Trevor going to try and shroom up, try and deny that top 2 from 6C. Both baggers still chaining. Trevor not getting a box and getting backed by his teammate. Unfortunately, a little bit of miscommunication. Mike hits the fire, and Stubbs is the only one back there. It doesn't look good for ZA, folks. Will we see a last second shock for ZA to potentially save that track for them? Stubbs shrooming up, and Trevor getting starred by his teammate, I do believe, and that, ladies and gentlemen, could very well be curtains on ZA's season as we go towards the last race. Oh my goodness, what a roller coaster. Unfortunately, the moment the airship was picked, 6C definitely were had the advantage going into this second this last GP, really going into this track. Airship is just such a tough, such a tough rate. Oh my goodness, sorry, such a tough track to break top two on, and it is going to be top 2-4 for 6C, getting 49 points ahead, and that is GG's, ladies and gentlemen, unless we see a pen go into go into Za's favor. It is going to be 6C that will end up as your Division 1 finalists alongside MI. I do believe a top 5 is only worth around 45 points to my knowledge, something along those lines, but it is unfortunately not going to be enough. So at this point, you're either fishing for a pen or you're simply accepting that 6C have picked themselves back up and have managed to get their dominance back that was shown during match 1. Last track pick, as expected. Yeah, we see both teams going whatever they want, really. This is essentially just a victory lap for 6C. Both teams most likely going to be running as all 5 just for the sake of that last race. As we do see Ghost House actually being picked. I do see Demons in the chat going to be happy about that one. Unfortunately, it is going to be picked in a context where it does not matter. But regardless, I do want to use that race to congratulate Za for that match 2 performance, keeping it so close for so long until that last GP, just holding onto that lead for a long time, making a team like 6C feel the pressure for quite a long time, and unfortunately not managing to hold onto it the whole way through. We do see I do believe we do see Striker running with Johnny staying in the back, not wanting to risk anything, as Charlie and Zilla already in top 2. Trevor forced to break that red into quite the unfortunate spot, leading to him getting into 7th place. I do believe Zilla is in first for the time being. Let us quickly check. And actually, if, Mike just bills into him and getting comboed by Charlie. Never mind, Caster's Curse, immediately throwing him into the mixer. His teammate pulling a TC right in front of him, just going to take the Shroomless without a single need to worry. Stubbs maybe has a dodge. Never mind, that is a blooper. Definitely not what you want in that situation. Charlie did get hit out, as we see Callie and Mike in 1-3, trying to save. Um, just getting a little last bit of a winning race to try and save their honor a little bit. We do see Brody in 2nd place. Not sure if Zilla actually managed to get the squish onto Callie, but it did look like it. As we do see Brody making the cut and getting into 2nd, close behind Mike in 1st place here. Ooh, that pow that pow is definitely uh pretty stressful, but Brody does stay in 2nd behind Mike and immediately gets hit out right as I say it. Let's switch over to Trevor's POV really quickly, as I do assume Mike is just going to stay in first for for the rest of this race, pretty much. Trevor chaining those shrooms in 7th, going to try to get some more shrooms to take the last cut. Will we see anyone go for the finish? And we do see Brody and Zilla actually both going for the alternate finish in 2-3. And ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for these D1 semifinals, as MI will meet 6C in the Division 1 finals, Maximum versus 6 Sense. Za had quite the tough battle ahead of them, losing match 1 by quite the dominant fashion, but managing to pick themselves back up match 2 and getting really close to actually making a proper comeback, but unfortunately slipping up right at the end with 6C chaining into BC2 after an amazingly strong Spooky Swamp performance, leading to just somewhat of an irrecoverable matchup for them. Regardless, congratulations to both teams. Definitely a strong level being shown in match 2, very much appreciated. As much as the first match was one-sided, the second match definitely showing why Za ended up as the 2nd seed in Division 1 and showing why they deserved to be in the semifinals in the first place. Congratulations to both teams. And I will, unfortunately, I will have to stop us there. Unfortunately, it does seem like the VF cast is not has not been going as well as. Unfortunately, there seems to be our POVs stuttering a little bit on the CTL YouTube, so I cannot quite recommend you to go just watch that. If anyone has any raid suggestions, as Masako suggested, I do advise to throw them out now. In either case, I was scoped, I was your caster for this match, and I am very happy to have been here for you guys tonight with, I will say one last thing, Zilla scoring 130 for the last semifinals match, putting his team on his back and showing exactly why he was the Division 1 MVP going into this match, and hopefully seeing the same performance out of 6C against Maximum in the Division 1 finals that unfortunately we do not have a set date for just yet. But stick around the CTL server, as it will be most likely by next week or the next one. See you later.